Hello, welcome to another episode of Somewhere Between a Film and TV podcast. We are your hosts. I am Daniel Para,
And I'm Erwin Trejo.
and we're talking about another big movie this week. I'm super excited to talk about it. We'd mentioned it on previous episodes. We're talking about Dune. Hey, Erwin,
Dune.
how you doing?
Were you saving that?
Yes, I thought about it this morning, and I was like, I gotta do it. If you're not familiar with us, number one, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time, uh, what we like to do is imagine you're walking out of a movie. You want to talk about it with your friends. You'll get a little bit off topic, but eventually you'll circle back around. That's what we like to do. The first half of this will be spoiler free, and then we'll tell you there'll be a spoiler section, and we'll get into that. But coming off of what was his last movie? Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve making yet another sci-fi epic. We're both familiar with his work in different ways and Dune in general. I want to ask you, Erwin, what did you have any familiarity with the source material, and what are your thoughts on Denis Villeneuve overall?
I don't know how to pronounce his name at all. Every time I see his
Neither
name,
do I.
I'm so excited to see another movie of his. But at the same time, I don't know how to pronounce it. But I love all the movies he's directed so far, which is what Arrival,
Yeah,
Prisoners,
like a
Blade Runner
yeah.
2049. So of course, whenever I see him hit a new project, I'm excited about. But I knew nothing about Dune at all. All I knew was all these famous actors were all coming together. That's the one thing I was like, whoa, this cast is insane.
Yeah, when the casting had been like originally announced, I was who was I most excited for? Cuz like Josh Brolin is in it, Oscar Isaac, Zendaya, which we'll get into that. Um Rebecca Ferguson. It's just like Timothy Chalamet, all these names that are like just the most popular people right now. And my familiarity with Denis Villeneuve, he's one of those like you said. I think his name for me, he's the Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson. You see the name, you're like, I need to see that. I don't even need to know like what it's about yet. I just know Paul Thomas Anderson's another one.
Oh yeah, the
I,
licorice
I need to see it.
pizza. Yeah, it looks so
Yeah, it
good.
looks so good, right? Like I'm super excited for that. And I'd always gone back and forth between what my favorite movies of his are, between Prisoners and Blade Runner 2049. I adore both of those so much. Arrival is perfect. He's Sicario. Oh my god. This guy is just like, over the past decade, honestly, it's insane that that person's been able to accomplish so much in like so little time. I don't think he's made anything I've disliked yet. There is just some where I'm like, um, I've just happened to watch some more than others. Like I've definitely seen Prisoners the most, I think, but that's just because I want to say it was the first of his I saw. And going into Dune, did you read the book? Did you know anything about like the David Lynch movie, or were you just going in completely like, oh, I don't know a lot about this, or what were your thoughts?
I knew about the movie. I don't think I remember seeing I remember scenes of it, but it's probably just because it's something I've probably seen from other just other people talking about that movie, or it's just something that's been brought up in social media. But I knew about that movie, but I haven't heard anything about it as well. Um, what was it? I knew that I was reading something where it's David Lynch wanted to do better from that and just wanted to go just give it another chance in a way, because he didn't really have that, I guess, the chance to do it in this one, or the old one.
Yeah, it has a whole Dune as a whole has a whole history. There's a mini series from, I believe, 2002, I want to say, that adapted his novel to less than favorable reception. There was I think also another sequel miniseries to that, but then there's the David Lynch one, and then there's a documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune that people go to, but a lot of people specifically reference the David Lynch movie, and David Lynch himself is not a fan of it. It falls into that like Alien 3 David Fincher category of like, do not associate me with that movie.
But you made it.
They're like, not a, yeah, it's like, this is your work, pal.
Own it.
It'd be like if I turned it, be like I turned in an essay, I got a bad grade. I was like, this isn't mine. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't make this.
And then it's just like the complete opposite, where it's like a movie that gets like well reviewed and everything. Yeah, that's my work. It's like, but sir, you didn't direct it. No, but it's mine.
Like in high school, a friend of ours, Steven, I copied one of his projects. Don't tell anybody. For what was it, like AP Geography or something like that, and he got a 97. I got a 101.
I always forget.
Which, like, you know, I just did his work better. You know.
My name was just clear.
But I wrote my name more legibly. That's not true. I have terrible handwriting. But I want to ask you what were your overall thoughts on this? I have mine, and we have this rule right now where we do not tell each other what we think before we go into something, because or after we've seen something, because we think it'd make it much more interesting. So I'm gonna ask Erwin, what did you think of Denis Villeneuve's Dune?
Dune, more like, okay, I don't know what's going with that. I loved it.
You could have said Dune your mom.
No, why would I? No, that was okay. I don't know.
Dune your mom.
No, I love this movie. It just from the beginning till the very end, I was like hooked. Like it did not feel like the length. Like I did not feel the length of that movie at all, and I love that so much.
No.
Because I don't know. Like lately, we've been getting a lot more like more than 2.5 hour movies, almost 3 hours, and even then, it's like now it's like you don't really feel that. But I guess it goes to show like how much like effort the writers and like the producers and directors and everything, like they know like, okay, what is gonna keep the audience like hooked throughout the entire movie, and that's how I felt like just from beginning to end. And I also like, because when it comes to just like introducing like a different world and everything, of course it's gonna happen where a lot of like you have to talk about it and like understand like their currency, their backgrounds, like religious belief, like all that, right? And they introduced it in such a way where it's just like it's fascinating and interesting, and it still leaves you like wondering, like wanting to know more, which I really liked a lot.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. I'm going into this with the caveat, though, that I did read this beforehand.
What?
That's where Erwin and I differ. I don't read. Never read a book. But, and I had seen David Lynch's Dune when I was much younger. I do not remember a single thing about it, but I remember it was like one of those things where you're watching it and you're like, that's right, this is like space Game of Thrones. I remember. And it was funny because I was like, I wonder when this stops in the book. I guess we'll get into this whenever we do spoilers, but like I'll say something. And so going into that, I knew I was really curious if people, because you know how like sometimes people are like, you need to read the book to understand the movie, which just makes it a bad movie, you know?
Yes.
And like I think that's a ridiculous concept. A movie should be able to stand on its own. It's an adaptation, not a condensed version.
Yeah, and like, how do you expect it to like get everything from the book into a movie? Even it's still hard to do that even with a show, as well.
No, I know. I found this incredibly faithfully adapted though. Like you won't believe how close it is, or at least I thought so. And especially when like it's doing this really heavy groundwork in terms of I guess it's like sci-fi fantasy, you know. This reminded me a lot of grander scale movies at this moment in time are still being compared to Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings had such a big impact on blockbusters in general, and they're still like three of, the most perfect movies ever
Oh,
made.
The Hobbits.
At least in my opinion. What'd you say?
The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I said The Hobbits.
I like the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, I like The Hobbits as well.
The Hobbits.
The Hobbits. The Hoobadies,
Which one's your
Boobadies,
favorite?
what?
Which one's your favorite
The
Hobbit?
small one?
That's a dwarf silly.
They're all the same. What? There's
That's not true.
I'm not
You're
into the
being
lore.
classist. And like I understand that, and this one to me, I felt the scope on this in like such a grand way, and it's one of those situations where I wanted to know what people who hadn't read it, like if they understood what was going on. Our friend Erwin, who we've mentioned before, was like, I didn't understand what was going on for about the first half of this movie. I was completely immersed in it though, and he said that there's like a pivotal scene in this where he's like, okay, I get it now. He's like, I understand what's happening. And I found this movie, like, I was looking at audience score because I figured, will people gravitate to this? In the trailer, I thought it marketed it to be incredibly action heavy, which it was more so than I thought. It takes a lot of the action scenes that weren't really prominent in the book per se and really puts them in the foreground. Like a specific scene with Josh Brolin, for example, and who's excellent in this, by the way. Everyone is on their A game, like completely. But I understand the comparison, and it felt like one of those things where I thought it was incredibly transporting. I didn't feel as if you're thinking like, oh, why doesn't it function like, in our world or whatever. But it's not going for that. It very much is. This does remind me of Lord of the Rings quite a bit in that way, that it introduces you to a universe and you're just like, I want to know everything about this. I want to know like how all of this works, and it's all fascinating, and it all works incredibly well. What'd you think?
No, I mean, like, I agree, because I mean, I didn't know anything about this movie, and that's how I'm pretty sure like Aaron and I were kind of in the same like boat as well, because at first I was like, what's happening? Because a lot of information is thrown at you, right? And so you're just trying to like understand what's going on, but I feel like I'm trying to remember which part of the movie where I was just like, okay, I understand. Like I understand what's happening as well, but overall, it's definitely a movie you have to watch again just to understand. I understand just understand better of like the whole world and everything. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's like the way it ends. I guess when we're talking about that during spoilers, but I was just like, what? It's over? Like that's it? Because I don't know, I wasn't thinking there was a part 2 or part 1 kind of thing. I was just like, I just knew like I was just in it. I was like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? You know. But sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
That's what I thought. Okay, I mean the acting was great as well. I just love, I don't know, like the more I see Oscar Isaac, I'm just like, damn, I need to see more of him.
He's the best. Yes. Yeah.
And then what's his name? Javier Bardem.
Yeah,
I forgot he was. I forgot that he was casted in this
as Stilgar.
Who's Stilgar?
Javier Bardem in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Okay. No, cast. It's one of those things where I'm like, Oscar Isaac. The fuck yeah, that dude. Yes. Like, and his rockin' beard in this.
Dude, yes.
No, and you know what was funny is, so Jason Momoa, I was like, I guess I've never seen Jason Momoa without a beard.
Yes, me too. Because I didn't realize that until I guess like later on, like whenever he like shows up again and whatever. Like at the first time I saw him, I was just like, I guess like in my head I thought he still had that beard. Yeah. So later on in the movie, when he shows up, like when he starts like showing up in scenes again, I was just like, oh crap, he doesn't have a beard. It just hit me, and I was just like, "What?"
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I was like looking at it, I was like, see, you look like Jason
Yeah, exactly.
Momoa,
You look like him.
but but are you?
Oh man.
He's amazing in this, by the way. He's like, he's one of those actors where I think he prioritizes, like, because, you know, he's Aquaman and he's charismatic as Aquaman, but he, like, you kind of forget that actors are as talented as they are sometimes unless they're, like, given something dramatic to do. For example, Dave Bautista is in this for a bit, and that dude, the more and more he shows up, especially in, like, Denis Villeneuve's work, because he was in a scene in Blade Runner 2049, he just kills it. He is an amazing actor.
Literally.
And I understand, like, because you know how he says that whole thing where he doesn't want to be associated with. Although I think John Cena is a very good actor too, especially like in something like The Suicide Squad, he works like perfectly in. But I get that he doesn't want to be associated with wrestling specifically anymore. It makes sense to me. I mean, especially when you watch his like acting in this, and he could just hold his own against someone like Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh yeah.
Who's really creepy and gross in this as the Baron.
Is it like, is that what you like imagine whenever you were reading the book? Like everything the way it looks and all, or just?
I think a benefit for me was that honestly I hadn't read it until like I saw the trailer, and then after that I picked up the book. So I think it's one of those things where you kind of you have the actors picked out in your head already. Although if you were to, you know how you always end up like sort of envisioning whenever you read anything and there's no movie adaptation of it, you start to like have the image in your head of that person.
Yes.
I think that the visual look of that character, like you would never be able to guess. I don't know, Stellan Skarsgård looking like really gross and, you know, covered in oil or whatever that is. Yes. That way, but his personality, you're like, that's the perfect visual representation of him.
What about the world of it though as well? Like, was it like did...
So, well, the world specifically, like, while you're reading it, that's why I was kind of like, there's a lot of terms, like spice, muad'Dib, let me think of another one, the box, the Gom Jabbar, and the women that I'm forgetting the name of, that like Rebecca Ferguson's a part of.
Oh yeah, I don't remember as well.
It's just, it's so much stuff that you're kind of like, I'm wondering, and Denis Villeneuve's such a visual storyteller.
He really is, yes.
That if this were handed off to anybody else, there'd be a lot of exposition about like the spice does this, the spice does that. Instead, it's shown in like the suits. I love that there's like the suits, you just understand completely like what they do. And this was, I want to mention, did the cinematography, before I tell you who shot this, did it remind you of any specific movie?
Arrival.
Okay, well, yes, but I'm not sure if he shot this, but it's shot by Greg Fraser. Who did Rogue One.
Oh, wow. That makes sense for, like, certain scenes. But, dang, that makes sense. Especially, okay, whenever we get to spoilers. But, dang.
No, I know. And I was like, wow, it's like Rogue One, but if I cared. I was like... Because I actually care about the characters.
The many characters in this movie, so like it goes to show that like you can handle an ensemble cast, whatever.
There are so many, yeah, and no, it's just, I mean, like I think Rogue One is fine, it's good, but like not to randomly get into Star Wars, which we always end up doing for like a brief second, but
gosh darn it.
And the Hans Zimmer score I've been like listening to on repeat because there's this vocal riff like that they do with the women chanting. That's like amazing. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
I was doing it in my head right now.
yeah. No, I would do it, but I couldn't.
I don't want Daniel to embarrass me, so.
Embarrass you?
Yes.
By me singing?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you do it.
No, you're gonna make fun of me. I already hear it. Oh wow, Erwin, you sang that so perfectly.
I haven't said a thing.
I'm sorry, I'm just preparing myself.
Did this movie remind you all of Ernest Scared Silly?
I'm sorry?
Did this movie remind you at all of Ernest Scared Silly?
What are you talking about?
So in the Ernest franchise.
Ernest franchise?
Yes.
What
Ernest goes to the desert in Ernest Scared Silly.
what is that? Is it a
And he-
movie or a show?
It's a series.
From where?
Like, Ernest Saves Christmas and... Look it up,
Yeah, I'm
man.
about to do that right now.
Okay.
It saves Christmas.
But... No, the Hans Zimmer score is incredible. This is one of those things where just everyone, actor, director, essentially everyone is on their A game. And, like, I think that... Did you notice something I'd never want to do? And I was reading, like, a review that said this, too, and I would totally agree. I was like, something I'd love to do, but also not, is never look up how this movie was made. Simply because, like, the CG, if there is any, I'm sure there is, there obviously is, like, you can't tell.
You can't tell.
Not at all. There's, like, every single shot, like, it's just... And the ornithopter, the dragonfly helicopter thing that they have, is... There was, like, a model of it, and it was... I don't want to say life-size. It looked like it was, though. But did you feel any particular way about that?
The way it's... Like... How the movie was
Like,
made?
just, like, the sets and, like, the way it was shot.
No, I mean, the way it's shot, I don't
everything
know.
in general.
It's just, like, what I expect now when it comes to Denis's, like, work from, like, the first time watching his movies. Especially whenever he started doing more sci-fi movies. Whenever he, like, switched to, like, Arrival and then, like, Blade Runner. Where,
Right,
like, his
yeah.
movies just seem so... Like, he can handle, like, just making, like, anything, like, big and or wide. And, like, you can, like, see it, you know? And I really love that. And, like, what you said, though, earlier, it's just, like, he's definitely, like, a visual teller. And he just, like, he tells his stories just through just, like, scenes and, like, just the way it's shot. And so, I just loved, like, I love the movie, the way it was made, of course, so.
No, I agree with you. Denis Villeneuve's a wide, wide boy. He's got to get all that wide in there.
What do you mean wide? He's, like, he's not big. He's just, like, normal. Wait, I'm confused.
That's what you said.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, you're like...
Okay,
Denis
what's
Villeneuve's
Ernest
such a
Saves
wide
Christmas?
boy.
Why did you mention that movie?
Because they have the same plot. They're very similar in plot structure.
Ernest helps Santa Claus as he searches for success. What? How is that the same? Ernest goes to
You're really
camp.
gonna watch.
How, is that the same?
I think that's a pivotal turning point in the Ernest franchise.
Why are you mentioning the Ernest franchise?
I think because if there's any blueprint that Hollywood's following right now, it's the Ernest series.
Why did you mention it? I'm so confused.
I just got to tell you, man. I don't agree with you.
With what?
But the disparity between the Ernest franchise and Hollywood in general.
I wasn't even talking about any of that. You're mentioning it. I haven't said anything about it. I'm just learning about the Ernest franchise.
You brought it up first. So, moving on. I want to backtrack to something you said earlier.
Name
I totally
5
agree with you.
David Lynch movies. Go.
Me?
Yes.
Lost Highway, Dune, Blue Velvet. Shoot, give me one more second. You really put me on the spot here. Mulholland Drive and Fire Walk with Me.
Okay.
But I want to backtrack to something you said earlier about runtime. There, on like No Time to Die was nearly 3 hours long. This movie's nearly 3 hours long. Eternals is nearly 3 hours long.
Wow.
They're really bringing this back. And I know a couple of people that are not fans of Blade Runner 2049, and that's totally fine. You're allowed to have your opinion, whether it be correct or not. And
Return and Bly.
I'm saying that there are incorrect opinions.
You know, if Ernest was here.
I agree with you. Ernest wouldn't like what I just said. Got to really live it up for my boy. And I think it's a testament to pacing that this doesn't bother me. I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie that like I was like, this is too fucking long. But I'm sure it's happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like with shorter movies, which like funny earlier, like in our episodes, we were talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. You're like, this movie's too short,
Venom.
which is like there's a really rare problem to have. Oh, did you enjoy the Eminem Dune rap?
Why do you say it like that? Venom 2 was okay. It was hard for me to say. I was trying to say, it's like, I don't want to say good, because, I mean, other movies were good.
Real hesitation there. Venom 2 was a movie, and we both saw it.
Yes.
And we both talked about it. No, but, like, I know that people, about Blade Runner, they were like, this movie's too slow, was one of their complaints, or just in general. And I think something that Denis Villeneuve does is, I wouldn't call his movies slow, I'd call them deliberately paced. And one time I read something that was like, oh, if you call something slow paced, you're just calling it boring. I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think movies are allowed to take their time and are allowed to feel like they're taking their time. But it's one of those things where, like, if you're absorbed in it, wouldn't you, like, want to feel like you're there for a while? I mean, I thought this was one of those movies where, like, before we were walking in, I saw it with a few people, and Erwin was one of them, and he was like, for example, he's like, should I go to the bathroom before this? I was like, it's nearly 3 hours long. He was like, okay, that's a yes. And when it was over, one of, like, the first things he said, he's like, that didn't feel like 3 hours. I was like, well, I mean, technically it wasn't, but, like, you know what he means, right? But do you think that, like, does that bother you ever? Or do you think that, like, it's just a testament to a movie being paced that it can work as well as it does?
No, I mean, I think when it comes to just any length of a movie, because someone could, like, even if a movie is like an hour and a half, it can literally feel long. And it just depends on, like, how the movie is, like, directed, and then, like, if you're willing, like, and if you're, like, invested in that movie, of course you want to be there longer just to, like, flesh out as much as you can from it. But if you don't like that movie, yeah, it's gonna feel like it's a drag. So, I mean, I have, like, I have no problems when it comes to, like, 2.5 hour movies or longer. It's just more like a mental thing where you're just like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my god, I have to prepare myself for this, or, like, I have to, like, set up different times for it. But then, like, when you're watching it, and if it's like, and you're invested, and you're like, oh my god, I'm in this, like, time goes by fast. Like, you don't realize it.
I know.
It's insane.
And you're like, oh, it's over. Like, we saw the movie at, like, what, 9:30 p.m., and then we got out at, like, 12:15 a.m., and you're just like, I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel it because I'm sore from sitting down for so long, but other than that, would you have any negative critiques of this at all?
I guess the only thing I would say is just, honestly, it felt like a lot of it was just set up. It felt like a lot of it was just like a set up movie in a sense. And then, like, that's why I was like, I didn't realize there was gonna be like a part 2. I thought it was gonna be like one whole movie, Dune. And so, like, I was waiting for, like, everything to be, like, you know, answered or revealed or whatever. And you know, the way it was just like, a lot of it was just like, I don't know how to say this. So, like, just like this first one, it was just more like learning about the world, understanding the world, and then it just seemed like it was just like set up for, like, the next one, I guess, because, like, it just kept going, just giving you questions and, like, teasing you what's gonna happen, and then of course, like, you're waiting for everything to happen, but, like, nothing's gonna happen until, like, the next one. But, like, other than that, though, like, but, like, it's not anything bad. It's just more like, luckily the second one is happening, because I thought it was already confirmed or something.
No.
Yeah, but apparently Daniel talked to the director in the studio, so he got it rolling.
Oh, yeah, I called Denis, and I was like, you got Dune 2, Dune 2 Furious, right? And he's like, yep, that's what we're calling it. And I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't know. Like, it's funny. As the time that we're recording this, Dune 2 was announced today. And if we'd been recording this and it had been announced yet, I would have been like, dude, if they don't make another one, I will be upset. I was like, because
dude, I can't even
it
imagine.
It is literally half a story. Like, if I found this movie so immaculately and perfectly made, and I was so invested that I don't really have any problems with it. But in terms of if I were someone, or if I were even myself, which I am, and
wait, what? What did you just say?
and it ended, and there was no part 2. Would you want to revisit this movie at all? I think like every time it would end, you'd be like, "Fuck this."
Yes, I agree.
You'd be like,
that's what I was thinking too. I was like, "Dang, if it just ended the way it did, I was like, would I still buy it?" I'm like, I think I would say I would buy it and watch it just because of the way it looks. And then eventually, I would probably just read the book just to find out what happens later on. And then, but other than that, though, it'd be more like you're invested, and you're like, all right, that's it. Nothing else.
it's over. You're done.
Yeah, you're done. You're like, oh, okay.
Which I guess we'll go into final rating here, and then we'll move on into the spoiler section. This is very obvious for me. I have nothing negative to say about this, and thank God there's a part 2. It's one of those things where if there weren't a part 2, I don't know if I'd have bumped my score down, because like I feel like that's kind of unfair, but it literally markets itself as Dune Part 1. So...
But it never says that, though.
Actually, I want to get into the marketing of this movie once we get into the spoiler section, because I find it like really funny. But 5 out of 5 from me. It's like probably my favorite movie of the year so far, I think. And I want to see it again immediately. I need to see it in IMAX, because I just saw it like kind of standard screening, because we have this like discount IMAX thing here, but for whatever reason they weren't showing it that night on Thursday.
That's weird.
They were showing Halloween Kills still, and I was like, dude, that's been out for like a whole week, man. Gosh. And I want to ask you, what were your final thoughts and your verdict overall?
No, I honestly love this movie. Like, the only thing I would say was just like, it's just, I guess when I realized it was a prequel, then I'm just like, oh, okay. But like, I was just looking at the movie itself, I still, like, I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 5. Just because I just love everything about it.
I think that's the first same score we gave, but no, I think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Look at us. And
look at us. What? I can't.
If you guys haven't watched it yet, number 1, do.
That was good. That was good. I was like, oh man, if he's not gonna say something with that, I'm gonna say it.
Number 2, come back and listen to the spoiler section of this. We're gonna move on into it. And hey, thank you so much for listening. You can follow us, or myself, at Para323Para on Twitter, and you can follow Erwin at
Erwin.Trejo. Follow me on Instagram, not Twitter. I don't really use Twitter now.
Okay, you can also go for that, or you can do, and I'm Para32Para on Instagram. Just remove the 3. I'm extremely.
It's just like
creative.
Now you got me paranoid about like spoilers, and I'm just like, oh crap. And so like I'm rarely on I'm not on Twitter just because of that reason. And
on Twitter. I know what you're talking about because of the thing I told you, right? Yeah.
You're like, don't go on here because of spoilers, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I just remember that. But we really want to know what you think. And by the way, thank you guys so much for listening. I was looking at like the amount of listeners we have, and it really blew both of us away.
Ew. Okay.
No, you said it.
Okay.
No, getting into the spoiler section, I want to cover something about the marketing in this. Zendaya is barely in this movie.
Damn.
And, and I knew that because I was like, she could just not be in this. Like the way she works in the novel, and just be saved for part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, she's given even more to do, even though like it's like Paul's dreams of Cheney.
Yeah.
And did you like Zendaya in this? I mean, like I know she's barely in it, but like
I don't know. Like I didn't think. Okay, I think my problem is when it comes to like big movie like stars and everything, and when you have a big name like Zendaya, like you expect her to use her a lot, right? And I bet everybody did. And so like when you come in
Yeah.
and like you watch the movie and you're like, oh wow, they didn't use Zendaya as much. You're just like, okay. It's like I don't know. I try not to like focus a lot on like these big name actors, kind of thing, where it's just like, oh, they are like major in like Hollywood right now, and so like we have to use them as much as we can. You know, it's like no, like if they are for this role for this certain movie, then they're just gonna do their best. They're gonna do their best in order to like portray that role, and just in that one movie. You know.
Yeah.
So that's how that's how I viewed it. I don't like I can see why some people would be mad about it if they just went in just to see Zendaya and that's it. I guess.
Well, I thought she was great in
Yeah.
it. Is she barely in it? Yeah.
Yes.
But like, it's one of those things where if the marketing gets people to go see it, I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
Like, because like I said, I didn't know that part 2 was gonna be a thing until today. So, like a couple of our friends were like, "Hey, she has like 2 lines in this movie." And I was like, "Yep."
Yeah, she didn't really
She has
talk
like
at all.
she has like the opening narration thing, and then she's like at the end where he like the Fremen initiation fight thing,
Mhm.
which is wonderful, by the way. I love the idea of the hand-to-hand combat in this, like not really like involving guns because of the suits, like the force field thing that they have.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was so confused on that at first because it's like, wait, what? So can can it go through or can it not? And it's just I guess like certain areas where it can go through. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, this movie definitely in. Did you like fully understand the world once it was over? Were you like, okay, yeah, that makes sense?
No, I would say I would definitely have to watch it again. Like I'm honestly, if I watch it again, I'd for sure at the end would go like, okay, I understand. Because it's just like a lot of information. But like the thing is like when it first started, right, was just like the whole prologue, and I was like, oh man, they're doing a whole like they're gonna explain everything, right? And like you know how some movies like when they explain things, they explain very thoroughly, and you're just like sitting there just waiting for the movie to start. Like, what I felt like it was like less than 5 minutes, and then it was just going like straight into the story kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I liked, and you know, and like it does that thing where it's just like it explains along the way. And
You know, which is totally
Mhm.
fine. It's one of those things where like if they had a sit down scene and they like had explained it for I don't know
Yeah.
like just the expository scene, the where you need to tell the audience what's going on through dialogue,
Yeah.
but you're also like you've been living in this world. Why would you need to know this information?
exactly.
But I think making Paul like not fully understand what's going on, which is number one hilarious because like I still can't wrap my head. I've read it, I've watched it. I think the fact that the Messiah, his name is Paul,
Uh-huh.
is hilarious.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
Especially-
I don't know. I was like, his name's just Paul. Like, I don't know.
Especially when everybody's name is like Duke Leto, and I'm pretty sure Dave Bautista's name is like Beast Rabin.
Oh my god.
Or something. Yeah, or the Baron Harkonnen. But the scene that
Paul.
really clicked into place, yeah, the Messiah Paul. That really clicked into place that I was asking, I was like, when did you figure out what was going on? Was the like the full Harkonnen invasion?
No, it was definitely
segment that
it was
happens.
before that. It was. I'm trying to remember when. I think it was right. It was right between, like, right before he meets up with Javier Bardem's character.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's when like everything started to click, kind of thing. Understanding like
Is that like scene?
okay, like understanding like their currency, like the importance of spies, like their roles, like the reason why they're there, like the reason why like Javier Bardem's character, like you know, like their tribe in a sense, you know. That's when I was like, okay, this is all starting to make sense.
Yeah, and he has that line. He's like, "I know you."
Yeah.
And no, and what I mean by visual storytelling is before they're ever on the planet Arrakis, like the scene where they're about to leave their home and go there, where Paul touches the water,
Mm-hmm.
and you just understand. You're like, well, he knows where he's going. He understands that there's none of this there, and it's all conveyed through just like movement and facial reaction, and just like I think it's a real testament to the actors he gets because they're so great. And I don't know what your thoughts were on Timothy Chalamet when he started acting, but like I think the first thing I'd ever seen him in apparently was Interstellar, which I like did not realize he was in
Wait, who?
until I saw it again. Timothy Chalamet.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's the son, which I was like, what? But the first thing I remember seeing him in is Lady Bird, which is a movie I think is fine, and he's fine in. And Call Me by Your Name, I also think is fine, and I also think he's fine in. But like the first movie he ever made a full like, yeah, that's a great actor was Little Women,
Oh yeah.
which I adored. He's incredible in The French Dispatch, which we'll talk about at some point. And he's phenomenal in this. You said you'd seen Beautiful Boy, but like, what were your thoughts on him in that, and like anything else
I
you'd
mean,
seen
I've
him in?
always thought he was a strong actor. You know, like, and he very. I feel like he picks his movies very. I don't know. Like, I think he's very picky when it comes to his movies, like the roles that he's in.
The Wonka Man.
The Wonka Man, yes. Sorry, I just don't know why they're making. Okay, but like, I don't know. He's never. He's just really good at like playing like serious roles, you know. And so like, of course, like we haven't really seen him like play a role where it was just like out of his comfort zone, I would say. You know, and I feel like he's always had the same look.
Yeah, well, the only reason I disagree with you is because I've seen The French Dispatch.
We get
And he
it.
has an
You've seen the French Dispatch. It's like your 80th time telling me.
This is my third time telling you this.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like he has an extremely comedic presence in it. In this, I don't think anybody does except for, I guess, Jason Momoa. But like,
Yeah.
it's so funny when Jason Momoa shows up and you don't even see his face. I'm like, I know who that is. Like,
I really didn't think he had a beard. Or like, I thought he had a beard the entire time until whenever he comes back to visit like the king or whatever, like Oscar Isaac's character again.
yeah.
After like being out there in the desert, whenever he comes back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't have a beard. That's when I realized.
Where do they shave?
Where?
How do they
Oh.
shave?
Oh,
Not
where?
where.
Oh man, his fight scene was like awesome.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah, it has that like whole like hero I'm sacrificing myself thing. And there's a really small detail that they do that I love. Like Paul does it towards the end, and he does it like the chest against the the blade against the chest thing, and then he lifts it up. That's like that's so amazing.
Yes.
Just like really random small signals like that really I swear, like it's small details like that you're like, this is a lived in world.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a like fully realized, even if you don't understand what's going on, you know that you're somewhere else. And I think that's a testament to strong visual storytelling.
Oh, then
But-
also like Josh Brolin.
Yes.
Like, wait, is he dead, Daniel?
Honestly, it's an off-screen death, and
Sad.
you'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Damn. I really liked.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. I love Josh Brolin's voice.
Mhm.
He talks like this the entire time.
No, he doesn't.
He does it. Yes, he
No, he
does.
just talks like Josh Brolin.
That's what. Okay. But no, Jason Momoa is amazing in this. Like I keep saying that, but like it's true, and I really wish. I don't know. It's one of those things where like a lot of the actors in this, David Desmalkian, Polka Dot Man, also shows up.
Oh yeah, I didn't
Like,
realize.
nearly unrecognizable. Yeah. But I think like just the acting is so strong in this, and even if they're not dialogue heavy scenes, which Denis Villeneuve gets away with a lot, which is why I always want to read the screenplays for his movies and be like, how long is that? because it'd be like the spaceship drops down, and that could be like 3 pages because it's like 3 minutes of a movie.
That's crazy.
Another small detail I loved was the like the way they drop down in those suits is like really slow, and it's that scene, like it sort of pans towards the what do they call them, like the boom things, like, you know what I'm talking about, like how they distract the worm.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But they're all dropping down really slowly, and it's like the music is blasting. And what did you want to say about Rogue One that you were like, oh, that makes perfect sense?
So it's about like the worm, and then like the ships in the movie itself, like just like that.
Sexy wormhole.
No.
Look at that
No,
wormhole.
Let's end it, Daniel. I don't want to do that.
Don't you just want to?
I just like.
Let's keep going.
But like that's what Rogue One did. But I feel like it's just like the director, as like I mean like I guess what you said, like the cinematographer, like I guess he understands like just like how to make something so massive to your eyes, you know.
Like the wormhole.
Okay.
No, I agree. I think like a smart choice is in all of the like massive shots of things, there's always a human like in them.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the physical presence of an actor, which like makes the size difference extremely emphasized, which I think like a problem with some of the later I want to say like MonsterVerse movies, for example, like as much as I enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
I don't think you get a sense of how big they are sometimes, simply because there's no like shot of a human right next to Godzilla or anything.
True.
There is sometimes next to Kong, but you start to think of them as smaller than they are, which maybe you shouldn't be doing. Like, sure, they're up against like big buildings and stuff, but I think identifying with a human presence, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, I'm the same size as a person. So you're kind of like, which I think emphasizes the size of the ships. The desert looks beautiful in this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the that like the Atreides, I don't know what to call it, like the house that they're in.
Oh, like the
is beautiful.
The building.
Yeah.
I like the building.
And large, and it's funny what Denis Villeneuve does with colors, I think, because it's not like this movie has a variety in terms of color palette. It's a lot of orange and a lot of gray and an occasional blue here and there, but he makes, or Greg Fraser I should say, makes it look so beautiful. It could be one of those things where like if you got someone else, it could just be so kind of,
it would blend all together.
Yeah, and you'd be like, this is good. This is really good even, because it's anchored by strong writing, strong characters, and CG and everything. But when you add that extra element to it, you're like... And they also announced that he's doing the director of photography for 2, which he should be. It shouldn't.
I can
it
imagine
shouldn't be
someone
anyone
else just being the cinematographer for that.
I'm trying to think of someone that just has like a wildly different approach, and they're just like, yep, it's me now. It's like with franchises, you know, sometimes they switch off between cinematographers, which is fine, but you can tell.
Yeah.
Like, some of the Harry Potter movies are shot better than some of the other ones. Like, I think Half-Blood Prince has an Oscar nomination for a reason. And that movie is just, like, beautiful. And here, I think, like, if you were to switch off part 2, I think that I wouldn't want to say that would ruin the immersion, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I think since this is literally half of a story, because how it ends is, I'm not going to call it on the nose because that sounds like a negative thing, but Zendaya literally turns and she's like, this is just the beginning.
Dude, okay, when that happened, I was just like, okay, let's go, you know, like, I was just ready for the next scene, and then, you know, it just goes black, and I'm just like, what?
Erwin's like, all right, we're halfway through. Let's go. Let's see the rest
exactly.
of this.
That's what I thought. I was just like, okay, like, I don't know. Like the moment she said that, I was just like, why would they just say that randomly? You know?
Yeah.
Man.
You're like, what? Why are you telling me this, Zendaya? Like,
It's just the beginning, and I'm like, okay, what's the next one? Oh man, that's like if what was it in Infinity War?
oh, like
Where everyone loses and everything. It's like, okay, what are they gonna do next? Just cuts.
it'd be like I don't know. What if it was that scene where he's like, no, we almost got it off, and then it just ends there.
Dude.
You're like,
I can't.
you're just like, well, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. But there are, okay, so in terms of the books, I want to mention there are 5 in the mainline series.
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to see the rest of those? Like if they were to make Dune 2 to Dune,
Too Dooney.
would you want to see the to Dune? Would you want to see the ones after that?
Is it with the same characters or no?
For a couple of them.
I mean, I guess it depends like how the first one goes with part 1 and part 2, and like depending how that story ends. So like you said, like there's like 5 different stories in that book.
5 books.
Oh, there's 5 books. I mean, no, I mean I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't mind, but I feel like when it comes to that, I think it'd be hard just to have the same director and like the same people work on it. But I wouldn't mind someone else like having their own take with it.
Yeah, I think that since this is such, like, Denis Villeneuve's handprints are all over this movie, I wouldn't want anyone other than him. Because anytime it's ever tried to be anybody else, it hasn't worked.
No, yeah.
So...
No, because I mean, okay, that's only because, like, they always choose, like, other directors. So, like Denise right now, right? He's, like, a, like, top-tier director right now. And so, like,
yeah,
you gotta find someone with the same type of, like, top tier as well. Because when you go someone below, you can tell, you know? And so, like, you gotta find someone, like, either, like, basically as equal to him.
I do have a question for you, because in his films, he gets this, I'm not going to call it a criticism, because honestly, it's like, it's an approach he does, either you like it or not. It's the same thing that Christopher Nolan does. He does this, like, kind of very icy sort of approach to handling his characters, and either you gravitate towards them and you're like, I love these characters, I think they're great, or you end up kind of like, okay, they're in this, I'm watching this, I'm following them, but if they were to say, I don't know, I'll die right now, which, you know, a lot of them do in this movie, would I care? Because I know that some people, like, their problem with Blade Runner 2049, for example, is that they don't care about the Ryan Gosling character, and if you don't, then I guess really that movie doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, what? How do you not care? But if you don't, then I don't know. But like that's like, but it's like one of those things where it's like he doesn't talk. He doesn't talk as much, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and like how Denise does it, like he tells like his story through visuals, and so like if you're not picking that up from that, it's just like you're not gonna care as much for like Ryan Gosling's character in Blade Runner. So
yeah, like I think his most dialogue heavy film is like Prisoners, which still has these extremely long sections of just quiet,
dang, I kind of want to watch that
meditative.
movie again.
They're so creepy. Yeah, I think I still have your Blu-ray, by the way.
What? How?
Because I forgot to give it back to you.
Some weekend.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way. I might just watch it again.
It's like you ate my sandwich, and then you're like, I took your sandwich. What? That's insane. Yeah, well, it was a great sandwich.
So, Erwin and I have this story. We've known each other for a very long time. We were in middle school, and he offered me one of his Cheetos, and he handed it to me, and I ate it, which is funny because we both don't eat that anymore.
True.
But, and I got that, and you were like, hey, you ate my Cheeto. I was like, you offered it to me. And you're like, no, I didn't. I was like, yes, you did.
Guys, been going
it's
on
an
for
argument
10 years.
we still have to this day.
It's been 10 years.
This is still brought up every once in a while, like just now.
Dang, it's like, man, when we get older, we just see a bag of Cheetos, like, you ate my Cheetos.
Did you ever see Rashomon
Sorry?
or The Last Duel?
Oh, no, I have not.
Okay. I'll make that joke if we ever end up talking about that then.
Okay.
But no, I mean, oh, and another thing about the marketing is like I said, I thought that in terms of it being action centric, there are definitely more action scenes than I thought. Like this is much more the audience. I was looking at like the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was at 94%, and I was like, thank God.
Oh wow.
Because I want to talk about this, and honestly, I was kind of surprised. The Green Knight, I remember, has like 50% or something, and I adore that movie. But I also understand. So when I was like, this movie is not marketing how slow-paced it's going to be. And it's showing a lot of the action-centric beats, which is fine. But honestly, a lot of those segments are long enough that I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay, yeah. Did you feel any way about that?
Josh Brolin dies?
You've seen it.
I mean, I didn't expect him to die like that. Well, no, yeah, I did not. Like, yeah, the way it was marketed, it was very action heavy, but I don't know. Like, I didn't really think much of it. I didn't think it was going to be action heavy. Because I was like, this doesn't sound like Denis. Like, he wouldn't direct, like, a movie with, like that, you know? And so, like...
Yeah, you called Denis and you were like, you wouldn't do that?
Yeah, I had a whole conversation with him. Before he made the movie, I was like, hey, man, don't make it action heavy. That's not
and
you.
He was like, wait. And he was like, oui.
He's French?
I am French. His name's Denis Villeneuve.
I don't know. But...
It's a good thing you told him that, though.
True, yeah. Thank God. Now he gets to make a part 2 because of me. And you, because you talked to the studio.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Both of us were like, hey, get on this.
Right now.
And they were like, all right, guys, we got you.
The guys from somewhere in between got in between us.
You keep getting the name of our own show wrong.
Hey, guys.
No, overall, I'm super excited for Dune 2.
Yes.
I hope to see more Wormhole. And I want to ask if you have any final thoughts, Erwin.
Yeah, I'm excited for the second one, especially since the first one just ended abruptly, and I was just like, what?
Hey, it's really funny because honestly, it doesn't like end. It just like stops, and like it does that thing where they're walking out in the desert, and then you're like, all right, where are they going?
Yes.
Oh no.
He literally gives like a whole like like a visual like shot of like where they're going, right? And then that's when like Zendaya goes like, or like whenever Timothy Chalamet's character, oh yeah, Paul, never mind. What am I saying? His name is so easy to say, Paul.
Timothy Stallion.
Yes, probably, if you get what I'm saying. But
I do get what you're saying.
But like after he says whatever about that, and it's just the day goes like, oh, this is just the beginning, and then it just ends. I was just like, I just still can't believe it. Where I'm like, all right, it's just over, like.
Yeah, and then the guy's like, look at me, I'm riding the worm, and then
What?
Like, the guy that rides the worm at the end.
Like in SpongeBob.
It happens in this movie. But yes, like in SpongeBob.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Are you excited for more Wormhole?
Not really. I guess like the worm seemed cool, but like it wasn't something that was very appealing. Or like I wasn't really that interested when it came to the worms. But like I mean, if they do something more with it, like in the second one, then that could change my mind. But I mean, they were really cool, like visually stunning. But
This just in, Erwin does not like the worms.
I didn't say that.
Erwin thinks that they're beautiful, but he thinks they have nothing to offer.
That's not what I said at all.
Cannot believe you don't like the worms.
I love worms.
What would SpongeBob say?
He was trying to stop it.
All right, guys. I think that about wraps it up because Erwin and I are going to focus on the worms for a little too long if we keep going.
Yeah, that's true.
But up next, we've got a movie I'm sure we're both extremely excited to talk about. We haven't seen it yet. Obviously, it's not out yet. But Eternals is next week. You looking forward to that?
No.
All right. And I want to thank you guys.
It's
so
gonna
much for
feel like
listening.
it's eternal.
That joke was super late.
Yeah, it was.
Dune your mom.
Oh my gosh. I'm Dune.
I'm
I'm Dune.
I'm Dune with this conversation.
Hey, what
Alright,
if
guy.
we said Dune properly?
That about Dunes it. I am your host, or we are your hosts. I am Daniel Parra.
I'm Erwin Dro.
And you can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram at Parra323Parra or at Parra32Parra. And Erwin, where can they find you?
On Instagram at Erwin.Trejo.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.